Country Life on Midlands 103. Brought to you by W. Orshaw, Burlington Business Park, Tullamore. Supplier of New Holland's tractors in the Midlands. worshaw.ie.
Good evening and welcome to Country Life here in Midlands 103. It's MJ Clery with you until 8 p.m. this evening, bringing you the latest from the Midlands and further afield from the worlds of food, farming and agri-business. Thank you all for joining me as always. 28th of January 2026, so last programme of January, and into February next time. I'll be speaking to you. Lots and lots of rain over the course of the last number of days, but look, we're getting away blessed here in the Midlands as opposed to some areas of the country, but still we're getting lots of rainfall, and hopefully those people who are getting heavy rainfall down the south of the country make it through okay, not too much damage done to their premises or their properties. This evening's programme, in a moment, Darren Carty from the Irish Farmers Journal is going to chat to me. Blue Tongue heads the agenda, unfortunately. We're going to be speaking about that in a moment, including SCEP. If you're in SCEP, you can alter your cow numbers. We're going to have a word on the trade as well, and indeed the story that's been dominating the press over the last week, that of the Board BIA Chair Larry Murren. Also, IFAC launched their farm report for 2026 last week. Philip O'Connor will join me to chat about the findings, some really interesting findings in this report. It's a huge report, an awful lot of work goes into it, and there's a load of findings throughout, and we're going to be chatting about that. There's a couple of, when I saw it, they stood out to me. 1 in 3 people are unsure or not confident that their pension will provide sufficient income in retirement. Pension is always a big one. And then succession dominates it, and also rules and regulations remain the biggest concern for farmers, followed closely by input and output prices. So more on that a little bit later. Bank of Ireland have announced that they are teaming up with Nuffield Ireland, are helping to fund a scholarship programme. Leishman and Head of Agri with Bank of Ireland, Owen Lowry, will join me later to chat on that. And he'll also give a view on lending this year, with milk prices being where they currently are, and how the bank are going to look at that. Towards the end of the hour, Teagasc are running training courses for people interested in setting up farm-related businesses. So if agri-tourism or direct selling is something that interests you, stay tuned. Barry Caslin will chat to me about the success of these training programmes in 2025, where over 300 people attended towards the end of the year, and there's lots more on offer in 2026. Now text me or WhatsApp me 083 3010 103. Happy to put anything to our guests this evening. As I said, starting with Darren Carty from the Irish Farmers Journal. Darren, many thanks for taking my call this evening.
Good evening, MJ.
Darren, unfortunately we have to speak about Blue Tongue at the outset. It's your headline in tomorrow's paper. High alert as Blue Tongue hits Ireland is the cover story and the front page of tomorrow's Farmers Journal. In relation to this, Darren, a little bit of background, please.
Yeah, so unfortunately, as you say, first case of Blue Tongue identified on Saturday morning, announced by Minister for Agriculture Martin Hayden on a farm in County Wexford. That triggered more testing. Sorry, I should have said the first case was just on normal routine testing. There wasn't any suspected symptoms in the animal, the cow in question. So that triggered follow-on testing. Now the department has been doing a lot of, tests since the 1st of January. But what they've found since again, it was just reported this afternoon, is that there's now 11 animals tested positive over 4 farms. So that first farm, there's now 6 more animals, so 7 in total on that farm, and there's 3 more farms in the vicinity. One of those is tested positive with 2 animals and a single animal on the other 2 farms. So it's been quite, I suppose, maybe moving quite swiftly, and the department have stepped up, testing of surveillance testing. They've also stepped up, I think, testing of samples. So Dr. Owen Ryan, who will be leading the Blue Tongue virus, I suppose, maybe charge, he has told my colleague Jamie Ford today that there was 800 tests, taken since the 1st of January. Some of them testing is still ongoing, but now there's going to be a significant ramping up in testing in that part of the country.
Those animals then that prove positive, Darren, where do they go? What happens to them?
Yeah, at the moment, MJ, we don't actually know what's happening on that. So there would have been, I suppose, in normal cases where you have a disease outbreak, there is a big rush to get those animals moved off the farm, culled. There hasn't been that urgency with Blue Tongue. We've seen in Northern Ireland, there was no animals culled off the farms where they were found. And at the moment, what we know is that there's no animals, or there's maybe no plans immediately to cull those animals. And where that's coming from in Jay is that it's around the way blue tongue is spread. So the department have said that, say, the virus can only replicate in midges. So midges are what, say, spreads the virus. So a midge bites an infected animal and it goes and it bites a healthy animal. Sorry, when it bites an infected animal, it takes time for that to replicate or the virus to develop. That can only happen above 12 degrees Celsius. And then that midge goes and he bites another animal and he infects another animal. There's no animal-to-animal transmission. What the department are saying is it's too cold at the moment for the spread of blue tongue. And I suppose the thought process or the insinuation here is that the cases that are finding have been there and present for quite some time. And one of the, I suppose, challenges with blue tongue is that on the sheep side, you do have very clear symptoms, but on the cattle side, you can have cattle and goats as well that can be asymptomatic or that really exhibit no real symptoms. And that's what we think or what we believe is happening here. And the department would think that that first case has probably been an animal that was infected for quite some time, but it still is showing antibodies to the virus.
Yeah, and when we're talking about infected animals then, Darren, what exactly occurs with the animals? Affects their thrive? Or how do they look? How would the average farmer know?
Yeah, so the telltale signs is like the I suppose name suggests, blue tongue. So an animal's, say, around its mouth will break out in sort of scabby lesions, or a bit like orphan sheep. It can also affect the hooves of animals. Their throat can become swollen, their tongue can become swollen, they can be drooling saliva from the mouth, obviously because the tongue is swollen. There can be a mucus discharge from the nose. There'll be a dip in milk yield, there'll be off form, there'll be inappetence, they won't have that same sort of appetite, they can be very lethargic, and in some animals there can be a breakout as well and others, so them sort of scabby lesions can be seen there as well and other. So there, I suppose, maybe your telltale signs are the most immediate ones. It can also trigger abortion in animals as well. And the department have been encouraging farmers where there's unexplained abortions in recent months, or where going forward, if there's unexplained abortions, to submit the fetus and the placenta material to be able to get that tested. Or they're also saying that if you have quite a high barren rate, an unexplained high barren rate, that could be a sign of blue tongue. And they're asking farmers to be very vigilant and to report any suspect cases.
Very good, Adam. Let's move, or Darren, I should say. Let's move on to SCEP. We got an email last week in relation to movement of numbers from your reference year. What's this about, Darren?
Yes, so this is, I suppose it's a facility there in Jane. If farmers don't calf 50% of their reference number on an annual basis, they can be removed from the programme. And the real serious thing about this is that if you fail to calf 50%, you're removed, well, then you have to pay all monies that you received to date. So there is a facility that you can reduce your reference number by 20% each year, and that could get you out, or if you think that you're going to calf less animals. So if we use an example, MJ, if you have 10 cows, and if you know that from the 1st of July 2025 to the 30th of June 2026, that you are only going to have 4 calves on the ground, whether that be because you've reduced cow numbers, a bull didn't work, whatever it be, if you know that you've only 4 calves, that's only 40% met. You can reduce down your reference number to 8. Yes, you will reduce down your payment, but it will mean that you won't get excluded or withdrawn from the programme. The other option that the farmer has, I should mention as well, is that you could buy animals and let them calf down in your herd. They have to calf down in your herd. But this facility is seen to be an option for farmers to, for one reason or another, want to cut down on animals, or that they're going to have less animals to calf. And it's a really useful one. It's well worth farmers checking how many cows they have to calf. And sometimes, I suppose, the challenge here, MJ, is people think that SCEP runs from the 1st of January to the 31st of December, which is the way it works for payments. But in the SCEP year, it runs from the 1st of July to the 30th of June. So while you might have a lot of cows coming calving next August, September, October, they're no use for this SCEP year or year 4 SCEP, So it's just important to make sure that you're going to meet that target.
Is there any option, Darren, to go the other way if you want to increase numbers?
So if you go down, just say this year, and you find that you're going to cast more numbers for the final year skip, you can go back up. Or if you went down last year, you can go back up to your reference number. But your reference number is your maximum. So go back to your example. If you have a reference number of 10 cows, if you went down to 8 or 7 or whatever it be last year, you can go back up to 10 cows for this year, but you can't go beyond the reference number. That's, I suppose, the upper limit of where you can go.
Yeah, very good, Darren. Now, another story that's been dominating the farming media for the last week or so, and that is the Board Bia chairman and Larry Murren. The farming bodies are all calling for his resignation, but he's holding firm. Your view on this one, Darren?
Yeah, this is it's a very tricky one because I don't know where the resolution is going to be. Larry Murren has come out this week and he said that he intends to stay put. He's defended his position as chair of Board Bia. He argues the issue has been widely amplified, and he says removing him would not strengthen Board Bia or Irish food exports. What he's calling for is calm engagement between stakeholders, and he insists that dialogue is the only way forward. Now, on the other side of things, farm organisations are not happy. TDs have also come out, and they're coming out in greater numbers demanding that Board Bia chair face the Oireachtas Committee. There's also calls for an emergency meeting sought with farmers. So I don't see, MJ, where there's going to be, I suppose, maybe a quick resolution in this. Because on one hand, you have Larry Murren is defending his position. He's saying he intends to stay put. He's not going anywhere. And on the other, you have farmers protesting outside Board Bia offices. You have other, say that's the IFA, you have other farm organisations, say coming out against say Larry Murray's position, saying that it's not tenable. So it's a difficult one. And like we've also seen the Taoiseach rowing in and backing Larry Murren, and that has angered some of the backbench TDs as well. And some of the other TDs have vocally come out and said that they think there's a conflict of interest here and that they're calling for Larry Murray's position to be assessed or to be reviewed. So I'm not sure exactly where it comes. Some people have said that Board Bia need to move them aside. It's important to, I suppose, point out in this is that Board Bia don't have a role in this. Say that this is for the chair or for the board of Board Bia to either come to resolution or it has to go to political level. That's, I suppose, the options here. That the chair of Board Bia is signed in by the government. It was the then Minister of Agriculture, Charlie McConalogue, that appointed Larry Murren. So if it's a political move, say from here, it'll have to be either political or it'll be either the chair, let's say the board of Board Bia saying that they don't have confidence in him, or Larry Murren deciding himself to step aside. So none of those, I suppose, if you're talking, is there going to be a quick resolution? I'm not so sure, MJ, that we're going to see a quick resolution on it.
Don't see it myself, Darren. I see this one playing out for a while, and I echo your comments there. Very apt, I have to say. Just lastly, we'll let you go, Darren, but just a word on the trade, both the sheep trade, and if we just talk about the cattle trade for a moment. Look, we're 28th of January. I know it is early days, but the calf trade will be starting to hot up. Look, there will be some numbers on the ground, but can't imagine a whole pile yet. I presume strong money being paid for calves at the moment?
Yeah, strong money, MJ, and some very fancy prices, like I've seen anywhere up to, I think there was €1,000 paid for Belgian blue heifers in Carrigallen. Now, see, what you're dealing with at this time of the year is there's some calves coming in that are nearly 2.5 months of age, strong calves as well. So I think that was the case in one of those. But in general, you'd say that the trade is hot, MJ. Calf prices have started strongly. Now, I think when numbers come on, you're going to see an easing. But we're seeing continental calves making up to 600. We're seeing good, strong Angus Hereford calves making upwards of 350, €400. Haven't seen much Frisian calves coming on stream yet, but the Frisian calves that have come on anywhere sort of from 150 to upwards of 250, and a lot of them at the higher end of that sort of price range, and even higher for strong calves in J. But I'd say that probably what we're going to see is we'll see numbers steadily start to come, but there's a lot of farmers talking about this. Definitely last year, farmers got rewarded for presenting a strong calf, and I think that's adding into the small numbers or the low numbers we're seeing so far. And I think that farmers will hold calves as long as they can to be able to present that stronger calf first. There's also, I suppose, going to be a bit of farmers wanting to see what plays out of Blue Tongue and what way live exporters go. So some farmers might be holding calves in response to that, just to wait and see what happens. But I should say, just to allay any fears, is that the rules and regulations of the department said is that exports can continue, that there is, say, health certs there for exports to continue. There may be some added rules and regulations for going to Poland and Italy, but there is the premise for exports to continue.
Yeah, very good. And a word in the sheep trade, Darren, before we let you go.
Yeah, sheep trade, unfortunately, in the doldrums, MJ, another 10 cent pulled off prices. Base course $7.50 a kilo. Opening prices for quality assured lamb $7.60 to $7.70. Sort of top price at $7.80, maybe a touch with it. And as you can imagine, farmers despondent enough, given that prices are €1 a kilo behind this time last year. You would hope, MJ, we've seen the same thing last year. We've seen a dip in the trade at the end of January, first week in February, and then we've seen a bit of a strengthening again. You would hope that would happen. Probably this year, the same bite or demand doesn't seem to be in the trade, but hopefully that will play out over the next few weeks.
Fingers crossed. Darren, €1 behind this time last year, not good news. But thank you, Darren, for your rundown on all those topics there, and we'll speak to you again on the programme.
Thanks, MJ.
Darren Carty there from the Farmers Journal. Now I'm going to shoot to a break straight away, and I am going to be back with Philip O'Connor from IFAC, and we're going to be talking about the Farm Report 2026, so stay tuned.
Country Life on Midlands 103.
With W.R. Shaw, family owned and serving the Midlands since 1982, we're Ireland's largest independent agri-dealer, specialising in New Holland tractors and parts. With over 40 years' experience, we provide top quality sales, service and support. Visit W.R. Shaw in Tullamore and Carlow or online at wrshaw.ie.
And you're very welcome back to Country Life here on Midlands 103. Now, I'd said before the break that I was going to have Philip O'Connor from IFAC in relation to the Farm Report 2026, but Philip's in bad reception, I would say. So Owen Lowry from County Laois, head of Agri from Bank of Ireland, has stepped up. First man off the bench, Owen. I was going to have you in 10 minutes time, but you've jumped on at me, so thank you, Owen. We are going to chat about finance on farms in a moment, but first, Owen, Bank of Ireland and Nuffield have come together for a scholarship. Can you give us the background on that, please?
Yeah, good to talk to you, MJ. So the Nuffield Scholarship, many of your listeners will be very familiar with it. It's where young farmers predominantly can get an opportunity to take part in the leadership programme and travel around the world to gain leadership skills in agriculture and I suppose to develop themselves as well. So we've partnered with Nuffield this year who have selected 5 scholars, and we've given the opportunity to one scholar to travel to one of these lighthouse farm projects, which is run by a University of Wageningen in the Netherlands. And the idea is that they would go on this program, they would learn about, I suppose, different farm systems and practices that will help agriculture and their farms in general to transition to a better environmental footprint in the future.
Yeah, really interesting, Owen, isn't it? It's great to be involved in something like this to try and bring that info back into the country.
It is, and look, Nuffield is a phenomenal program. It has developed many great farmers and leaders over the years, and I suppose what we're delighted to be associated with it this year, and hopefully the scholar will benefit from it, and hopefully Irish agriculture will benefit from it ultimately.
Did you do a Nuffield scholarship yourself back in the day, Owen?
Unfortunately, I never got the opportunity, MJ.
Yeah, it's hard to fit them in, but anytime I ever speak to someone who has done one, they always say there's never a right time, but nobody ever regrets it. You really do find out some very interesting things about whatever your area of interest is, and indeed yourself. It's a great self-development also. Oh,
absolutely, and you could build a great network. And I always say, look, it's a tremendous opportunity for farmers. I suppose someone like myself has an opportunity to travel within the places I work and get to travel, around the world that way. But for someone that might be more limited in terms of time and I suppose being a little bit based on the farm, the Nuffield Scholar is an excellent opportunity. So you take 18 to 24 months travelling and working on a project of your choice. So great opportunity.
Yeah, absolutely. Owen, let's talk about farm finances. 2026 milk prices moved in the wrong direction towards the back end of 2025, and they're still lingering around there at the start of 26. We hope there's light at the end of the tunnel. I'm sure there is. But from your own perspective now in relation to lending, let's talk about new lending. If a farmer wants to come in now in 26, we know there's nitrates issues with more slurry storage and whatnot. Is this milk price going to have a bearing on their potential ability to receive money?
Well, first of all, I suppose we have to acknowledge it is a very challenging time when farmers are looking at, well, one, the weather that we've had in the past week, but two, I suppose looking at the way the dramatic drops and falls in milk price over such a short period of time, from where, we had got used to levels that we're at a comfortable level to make up for the cost that we're seeing on farm. So I suppose there's a significant worry and ultimately then a lack of confidence to invest on farms at the moment. And that's understandable. But from our perspective, I suppose it's very important, and any dairy farmers listening today will know this, that we don't lend on a single year, be that a 55 or 50 cents year, nor do we lend on a 35 cents year. We look at the past 3 to 5 years average performance, we look at the milk price, and more importantly, we look at the cost. So really, we're interested in the margin. So we all in all, right, this is going to be a tough year, 2026, in terms of milk prices. But what we'd be all hoping is that floor will soon be in sight, if it's not there already, and that we start to come out of that, particularly into the springtime and into the peak milk period of time, where we know where base milk prices will be. But I do think that 2026, we're looking at a significant drop in average milk prices over the full year. And I suppose the thing that's in the farmer's control ultimately is to manage costs around that. Now, weather will have a big part to play, and who knows what way that will work out.
Just looking back at last year on 2025 before I let you go, and second best milk price after 2022, a very good year for dairying. But as you said, you look at that 3 or 5 year average. But if you did look at from 25 back, it was strong. The types of lending you were doing last year, was there a particular kind of area amount? Was it for land? Was it for new buildings? What did you see mostly across the desks?
Look, what we've seen, I suppose, really, it has changed over the last number of years, and we're seeing less being spent on concrete and parlours and expansion, and more going into land, particularly on dairy farms. But there's still that piece around slurry storage and additional storage required, so we're seeing investment in that. I think for this year, we'll see additional storage, but we'll see a slowdown probably in investments because of the outlook. But more importantly, I think what farmers will need is reassurance that banks are there ready to support them through cash flow needs. So I think we'll see a big uptick in farmers coming into us looking for 20 or 30,000 to support maybe a tighter period of time to pay some bills when the milk price is not going to be high enough, particularly in the early springtime when they're paying winter bills. So that's where we're kind of engaging with our people in branches and getting them ready. So I would advise any farmers that are worried or concerned about being a little bit tight of cash particularly in spring, early summer, just to come in and talk to us, and we have the supports there available if they need.
Very good. Many thanks for joining me, Owen. We'll let you go and we will chat to you again on the programme.
Great, MJ. Thanks again.
Owen Lowry there from Bank of Ireland. Now I'm going to shoot to a break, and I'm hopefully going to have Philip O'Connor from IFAC. Little technical glitch there, but as I said, Owen Lowry was the first man off the bench. He jumped up there, and thank you for Owen for joining us a little bit earlier than we had anticipated. So I'm going to a break, and we're back with Philip O'Connor in just a few moments.
Country Life on Midlands 103.
Brought to you by W.R. Shaw, where New Holland isn't just a brand, it's our passion. For over 40 years, we've been Ireland's trusted name for New Holland tractors, parts and farm machinery. Whether you need new, used or ex-hire tractors, we've got you covered. wrshaw.ie.
And you're welcome back to Country Life here on Midlands 103. Now, IFAC Farm Report 2026. Philip O'Connor joins me. Philip, many thanks for taking my call this evening.
Thank you. Thanks for being on, MJ.
It's a quick year, Philip, since I was speaking to you last. Going to go through the metrics of this report in a moment, but I'm always astounded really at the amount of detail and the amount of work that goes into this. This doesn't happen overnight, Philip.
No, there's a team was involved in it, and as I say, then a lot of different contributors from the tax guys, the local guys, the local partners, the different like our life insurance and pensions and our HR role functions and stuff. So there's a lot of contributors that come into it all right.
Yeah, looking down through the key takeaways, look, we could talk about it all night long, but we'll 5 or 6 or 7 minutes here. We'll run through some of the main points, or one of the standout points when I'm having a look at it. I suppose succession is our big thing in agriculture, and we're all well aware of it. But some of the facts here do make you say to yourself, right, we do have a problem here. If I just look at this, 2 in 5 farmers do not have a formal successor. 40% there farmers don't have a formal successor. Really high figure, Philip.
And that's taking out the people who said their family are too young, if you know what I mean. So like it's hard to have a successor if you've only got kids. So that's just counting people who said they have children of an age that could possibly be successors, if you know what I mean. So yeah, it's a high stat, like, and we've spoken about that several times over the years, MJ, and it's not massively shifting.
No.
But what I'm hoping is that there's people getting more aware of it, if you know what I mean. That there's no like I always say, like when we do these chats, whatever like that, whether it's on your show or any show like that, you don't listen to ourselves talk about succession and the issues around it and go away tomorrow and do a succession plan. But you do hope that when people listen to this and that they start thinking about it and start talking about it. And when you really delve into succession and the issues around it, and we can talk around about tax and the taxations and all that sort of stuff, but it actually really gets down to when we looked at the real key stats. And they're on par when we look at all the farmers. 26% of farmers stated income volatility is the biggest issue, and a roughly exact same amount stated that lifestyle not appealing to the next generation. But when you put that into sectors, it gets a little bit more interesting. So if you think about it, the dairy farmers pick lifestyle not being appealing to the next generation, and that's despite dairy going through a downturn at the moment, that they didn't pick income volatility as their biggest issue. They picked lifestyle. And adversely, the beef, despite having a very good year financially, if you know what I mean, this year, and you've had several people on the show talking about beef prices, they still picked income volatility as the biggest issue.
Mm. Yeah, it's very interesting, Philip, I have to say. But the lifestyle is a big one. I suppose when you do look at dairy farming, the inhospitable hours, this time of the year especially, starting into calving, cold nights, long days, long weeks, long months. It's
all consuming.
Yeah, exactly. You know, and then you do look at other jobs and even unskilled labour with the minimum wage where it's at and the wages that younger people can earn in what would be a softer job than dairy farming, no question about it. You can see where that is very prevalent and relevant. If we're talking about succession again, and we said 2 in 5 farmers do not have a formal successor, so we're popping that across then. I see here 2 in 5 farmers do not have a will in place. So I suppose, look, they're the same people essentially. But if I'm popping up again, I see one here, and this is an interesting one. So over 50%, 52% of farmers in partnerships have identified a farming successor. So for those people who don't have the successor, there could be light at the end of the tunnel if they were to look at partnerships and see about that model.
Yeah, I like the partnership model is a super model, and in fairness, the Department of Agri put a lot of weight behind it. And like a partnership anyone can be in a partnership with any business, but they have what's called the registered farm partnership, which is it's a partnership which if you do specific things, you get enhanced grants and schemes. But what's super about a partnership is you can go into a partnership with a son or daughter or with anyone really. And you're not handing over assets, so you haven't done the land transfer, and the land transfer can be quite emotive. But what you are doing is farming with someone, and most partnerships are farming with successors. You're farming with somebody, and you're working together, and you kind of allows you see how it's all going to work for everyone, if you know what I mean. And then you can still do the transfers within the partnership. So some of the most successful partnerships we've had have started off with son-daughter with 0 assets, mammy-daddy with all the assets. And there are still actually partnerships today, even though the son or daughter might have 80 or 90% of the assets. But they're still farming together because the model worked, if you know what I mean. So it's not... So it's a great little model for a stepping stone into succession, rather than you're coming home, we're giving you the farm, that, no, let's come home, or you're around, let's form the partnership, get the extra grants, work together, share the profits, and we'll work on those things then behind the scenes. And they could take time. And as I say, there's many partnerships out there that the succession plan has been done, and they said, God, sure, we're working well together, so we'll just keep the partnership going.
Yeah, it is. It's a nice easing into succession. I agree with you on that,
Yeah.
Philip. If we're looking across then at finances, I see here 1 in 3 are unsure or not confident that their pension will provide sufficient income in retirement. So I suppose, look, it is succession as well, people retiring. The area of pension, Philip, I know I had an IFAC rep on a few weeks ago, just before Christmas, talking about the new scheme, but talking about this.
Auto enrollment.
Exactly, the auto enrollment. And look, it's not big numbers, I suppose. It was the take home from it, really. But this one in 3 people saying they don't maybe have enough for retirement. This is a real issue now, Philip.
It is. And when we asked a follow-up question to that, over 60, I think it was 65% of people stated that having a pension would ease succession. So there's lots of farms out there, you know them, I know them, where there is 3 generations on the one farm, if you know what I mean. And and you don't want to find yourself in a situation where multiple generations are entirely reliant on one farm for their income. Like the state pension is €14,000, give or take. And let's be honest, for a person to live on €14,000 for 365 days you're not exactly having a wonderful lifestyle.
No.
So like where I feel like, so do I expect people to have pensions to fund their entire retirement? And let's be honest, no farmer really retires. You kind of use the word stepping back. Yeah, it's unlikely where people get to that stage. But where I like to see when a succession gets easier is when the person who's stepping back or handing over the assets to their son or daughter, that they have a level of funding from a private pension. So in other words, they're not entirely reliant on the farm for their retirement, if you know what I mean. Yes, will they get occasional lump sums or something like to be done in the house, whatever like that, but they're not retiring, and it just makes things easier. It really does. And for the younger farmers that are listening to this, if you know what I mean, who are maybe in their 30s or 40s who are taking on a farm, now is the time to put a few quid into pension. So because it's exponential growth of money, like you don't want to start thinking about a pension when you're 60 years of age. You need to have started when you're in your 30s or even earlier. So by the time you get to that age, there's a pot there for you, if you know what I mean. And it does make things smoother. It is not a great place to be when you have up to 3 generations entirely reliant on one farm for their income.
Do you think, Philip, is this something you see in IFAC? Are people a little bit afraid maybe of pensions, and when they hear funds and people who lost money on bank shares back in the day? Is there a little bit of fear there of the unknown?
There is, but that's where you need a good pension advisor. As you mentioned there, you had one of our guys on for Christmas, and I suppose what we feel about pensions and why we got into it is because we were in business 50 years. But it's about, so when I talk to a farmer about going for pension, when you go to a pension advisor, it's not about him selling your product. It's about him reviewing where your plans are, where you'd like to be, what you would like to potentially have when you retire, and then picking a plan that will work towards that. And we're not talking about high risk, highfalutin funds, if you know what I mean. You're talking about a spread of assets. So in theory, I'm in my mid-40s, so I probably have a spread of my pension in higher risk assets because a long way out. But by the time you get to retirement age, it should be in very, very low risk or effectively almost cash, if you know what I mean. So a good pension advisor will take you through that process, if you know what I mean, and make sure that you're in the correct fund for the correct stage of your life.
Yeah, well, definitively good advice in relation to finances is there is no question. There's no question about that. That's just the only way to go. We're going to finish on a positive, Philip. 93% of farmers would encourage someone interested in farming to pursue an agri qualification. That is a positive spin on it. And look, in general, farming can be a great way of life, and it can be fantastic, your own boss and whatnot. We are, I suppose, looking at the forward planning thing, but we don't want to be negative in relation to the industry, because lots of positives. And there you go, 93% of farmers tell people to go off and do an agri qualification.
They do. I did one myself. So, it's a great lifestyle. It's a great sector, but like any sector, it has its ups and has its downs and it has its issues. But on the whole, I'm a huge proponent of the sector. Like agriculture it's embedded in rural Ireland, if you know what I mean. It's a lifestone in many towns, if you know what I mean, in this country, like, do you know what I mean, that farming, whatever like that. And as I say, look, it has its issues, but it was interesting, the positivity even in farming was up this year, off the back of 25, which was financially was a reasonably strong year, if you know what I mean. But like the only sector that's unfortunately bucking the trend, for want of a better word, on positivity, and I know you've spoken about it, MJ, is the tillage sector. But I mean, the dairy sector and the beef sector and the livestock sectors were quite positive about 25, but unfortunately the tillage sector did not enjoy 25.
Yeah, and the tillage conference last week echoed those sentiments as well, Philip. So hopefully better news in 2026. Philip, I'm going to let you go. I'm going to say many thanks for joining me here on the programme, running through that, and we will speak to you again on Country Life.
Thank you for having me on it, MJ.
Philip O'Connor there from IFAC, and loads of data there. You can download that if you pop in IFAC Farm Report 2026. There's so much data on it. Really interesting read. And look, you don't have to go through it all. It's a big long document, but there's key takeaways. There's 2 pages there where you see the main points on it. There's another one. 70% of farmers do not prepare budgets. I suppose that's where your cost control planner and working with your Teagasc advisor, if you're a dairy farmer, you probably are in the 30% bracket then that does prepare budgets. And again, even can be feed budgets, can be financial budgets, but great info there if you were to sit down and do that at the start of the year. And another one in 3 are unaware of potential tax liability for the next year. I actually thought I think that's low. I thought it'd be more than 1 in 3, to be honest. We often hear people, myself included, often let it go. I say to myself, I'm going to do the tax return now in January, February. Going to know what the bad news is then for the back end of the year. And does it happen? The answer is no most of the time. But wouldn't it be great if more of us could do that and then be more aware as the year progresses? So maybe we'll take something from that. Now, we are going to an ad break, and coming up after the break, we're going to be talking about farm business options. Do you want to generate more income on your farm? If so, you might do a training course with Teagasc. Barry Caslin is going to tell us all about that in a moment.
Country Life on Midlands 103.
With W.R. Shaw. Looking for the best in farm machinery? We've been supplying top quality New Holland tractors and parts and providing service since 1982. Our expert team is here to keep your farm running smoothly, with branches in Tullamore and Carlow. Visit wrshaw.ie today.
And you're very welcome back to Country Life here on Midlands 103. Now, farm business options. Are you interested in generating more income from your holding? If so, some of these training courses could be for you. Barry Caslin joins us. Barry, many thanks for taking my call this evening.
Good evening, MJ. Good to be here.
You're more than welcome, Barry. Farm business options. So you had a very successful end of 2025. Elaborate first, please.
Yeah, so the Farm Business Options Programme, it's running for the last probably 10 years in Teagasc, and it's becoming more tailor-made each year, I suppose. And the training programme is really about, it's designed to help farmers and their family members, it could be the son or daughter, to explore maybe new business opportunities beyond the traditional farming. So it offers practical workshops, and there's expert advice, and there's links to other support agencies like the local enterprise office, the leader. And the idea is it helps farmers to diversify into areas like, artisan foods, renewable energy, rural tourism, organic farming, forestry, and to look beyond, as I said, the traditional types of initiatives. And I suppose the idea really is it's building resilience as well in rural areas. You have a lot of market fluctuations in the dairy sector and the beef sector and the tillage sector. So, and it opens up new income streams. And very often you might have a family member who has, I suppose, the capacity and the knowledge and the will to do something different, and maybe to lower the risk from the mainstream farming enterprises. And, to look at maybe a new business opportunity. And they might look at something, maybe what's the demand locally, and they might be interested in doing a business plan, maybe around their new business venture. And I suppose the idea of this is gives them an idea of what they need to be thinking about if they are considering a new business venture. Very often, that family member, the son, the daughter, the farmer themselves, the farmer's wife, they may have this idea, but something they're very interested in doing. They may have skills in certain areas, but they don't know how to make a business concept out of that. And this is to kind of give them a stepping stone along the way. And there are a lot of other support bodies doing this in the country, and we link up with those, MJ, to try and, I suppose, bring farmers on the right path, or anyone who's interested in doing something different. Because very often farmers, they're sitting on very valuable assets. They're sitting on the land, maybe old buildings, and that could be repurposed for something different. So it's to kind of take that idea that we may have been thinking about for a long number of years and trying to nurture that idea along and bring it along. And I suppose to bounce their ideas off other people who are there in the group as well, because the idea is that, they're with peers, people are thinking of diversifying and exchanging ideas with each other, and exchanging ideas with people from the local enterprise office who would come in to speak to them as well, and maybe mentors from there. and to bounce their ideas off them and to see, and I suppose to crystallise it for themselves and make them feel that this is something that they can turn into a viable business.
Yeah, it leads on, Barry, very well, this little piece from, I just had a chat with Philip O'Connor there on the Farm Report 2026, and next generation planning is a big issue in farming, and that's as a result of finances usually. The farmer has to stay farming because there's not enough income to keep two aspects of the family going. But if you're looking at this and you say to yourself, right, here's a dairy farmer, for example, we're doing well, but there's still maybe a mortgage on the house, there is enough for two full families, but the next generation comes in and they start looking at maybe selling milk direct from the farm, maybe making a yogurt, a cheese, a product, something like that. This really is kind of how we have to think about agriculture in order to get the next generation in and make it viable for them.
Yeah, and that's exactly it. So you're looking at, what you're currently doing, and I suppose most farmers don't like moving away from their comfort zone. This is what we've always done, maybe the attitude and maybe the thought process. And it's the fear of failure, the fear of doing something different, and the fear of maybe something going wrong as well. And sometimes you have to make that bold step. And sometimes if you're exposed to an idea, or you hear maybe a practitioner, somebody that comes into on one of these courses and talks about how they set up a milk vending machine in their area, the challenges that they had in setting up that enterprise, or they decided to set up their own cheese-making enterprise. And you'll hear maybe about another practitioner who did that and what challenges they had along the way, what they had to comply with in terms of food requirements, HACCP requirements, the kitchen requirements, the hygiene requirements, then the packaging, the labelling of the cheese, for example, afterwards. And there's a lot of conditions associated with this that may be daunting for some people, but when they hear somebody else who had those challenges, it may open it up for them to say, well, now having heard that person speaking at the course, I'd be interested in doing something like that myself. And, we've had examples of people maybe setting up, adding value on their farm. So it may be the son or the daughter saying they didn't want to do the farming themselves, but maybe another son or daughter was going to do the farming, but they decided that they'd like to do a micro-enterprise on the farm, maybe convert the milk into ice cream or produce cheese on the farm, as you mentioned, or maybe set up a vending machine. And, there's a lady up in Donegal, she's doing that. She's buying the milk from her dad and she's selling the milk via a vending machine to customers in that area and to hotels and restaurants in the area. And there's a good news story with that as well, because it's local milk produced in the area, being used in certain hotels and restaurants in the area, and people go to the vending machine on the farm and buy the milk directly as well. So it's sometimes you just need to hear somebody else who's done that and what stories they had along the way, and it might give them the confidence, because I think confidence is the key thing here, MJ. That you're confident in taking that next step along the way of your diversification, and sometimes by hearing somebody else's story, it gives you that confidence to make the next step.
Absolutely, Barry. We're just out of time. People can register their interest on the Teagasc website. If you pop in Farm Business Options Training Programme, details are there. We'll say many thanks for joining me, Barry. We'll speak to you again on the programme.
Pleasure. Thanks, MJ.
Barry Caslin there from Teagasc, and what good news stories they are when people do add value to their current product. I think milk is one. I know here in the Midlands, Bora Banya, you'll be aware of it there in County Offaly, also Bonnie Bow there in the outskirts of Athlone as well, both selling milk direct from the farm via vending machines. Obviously, look, these things don't happen overnight and they don't happen cheaply or easily, and there's extra labour involved, but you are taking some of that volatility out and then generating more income just to make the farm a more appealing place for next generation and indeed yourself. And at the end of the day, it's not why we're all doing it. We have to keep the coffers full and ensure bills are paid. So Farm Business Options Training, that's what you pop in and you can register your interest. Over 300 people actually did those in the last quarter of 2025, so a super amount of people there. That is it for this evening's programme. I would like to thank everybody who joined me here over the course of the last hour. Started back at 7pm with Darren Carty from the Irish Farmers Journal. Then we moved on. Owen Lowry from Bank of Ireland was speaking to us about how they joined up with Nuffield and are helping with the scholarship programme. Also Philip O'Connor from IFAC talking about the Farm Report 2026. And then we had Barry Caslin there from Teagasc talking about farm business options. Now, the programme is repeated on Sunday morning at 7am through to 8am. I will be back with you this time next week. As always, you can get us wherever you get your podcasts. So anywhere you get your podcast, type in MJ Clery, Clery, or MJ Clery Country Life, and we will pop up and you can listen at your leisure. We're actually also on YouTube now. I only realised this during the week. If you pop Country Life Midlands 103 into YouTube, you can hear us as well. So lots of different options there, and I will speak to you in 7 days' time. As always, Joe Cooney is up next with Country Roads. Good night, and we'll see you in a week's time.